Defining appetite for risk now ranks high on the list of priorities for many insurers. Risk appetite articulates the preferences for risk-taking. It seems that there's a lot of key stakeholders involved in risk appetite who have different perspectives and interests. So how do companies develop a risk appetite statement that takes into account all of these different perspectives?
There are multiple stakeholders that include policyholders, shareholders and debt holders, rating agencies and regulators, and of course management and employees. While shareholders are looking for a return on their investment and are therefore interested in understanding the amount of risk associated with this investment, policyholders are concerned about the company's ability to pay claims if the time ever arises. Along these lines, rating agencies and regulators typically act as advocates for the policyholders. For company personnel who manage lines of business or key functions, risk appetite is central to adopting and embedding ERM into their business decisions, reporting results, and managing day-to-day business activity. Risk appetite creates a dynamic link between strategy, target setting, and risk management that is fundamental to embedding ERM. An effective risk appetite statement that has been clearly communicated to employees then provides high-level guidance with respect to business decision-making because it accounts for all risk-taking and risk mitigation activity within the organization. Risk appetite also helps define boundaries within which risk-based decisions can be made. And so it is important that the risk appetite and tolerance statements be expressed in terms that are sufficiently specific and meaningful to both internal and external stakeholders. Ultimately, the risk appetite statement is designed to help protect the company's financial health by ensuring that the company is deliberate about the amount and type of risk it is prepared to assume, and also of the returns it needs to achieve for that level of risk.
Once a company has defined its risk appetite statement, how does it get beyond the strategy and apply it to the overall decision-making?
Linda, that's a great question. A high-level risk appetite statement in and of itself is not specific enough to apply to day-to-day decision-making. For practical application, the company must translate its risk appetite statement into measurable risk tolerances at the enterprise level, and that set even more specific risk limits at a more actionable level, such as line of business.
So Joe, how important is it to get the buy-in from the board and senior management when developing a risk appetite?
Because risk appetite is the company's statement of attitude about risk-taking, this is something that should be decided by the board of directors, which has ultimate stewardship of the company's capital. The board needs to fully understand and provide direction for risk appetite. An important step in defining risk appetite is to gather information from managers and directors on their understanding of the organization's risk-taking activities. Management also needs to understand how their role differs from that of the board and that they are accountable for developing strategies and business plans that are consistent with the board's mandate regarding risk-taking. There is an implied contract between management and the board, with the board deciding how much it is willing to put at risk and for what level of return.
So, Joe, how does Towers Perrin help its clients develop and articulate their risk appetite?
No two engagements are exactly the same, but our approach typically involves one-on-one interviews of board members and senior management. We ask a series of questions designed to understand their perspectives on risk and risk appetite. The responses, both qualitative and quantitative, are compiled, synthesized, and communicated back to the collective group through a facilitated workshop. This is the first of two key inputs to developing a risk appetite statement. The second key input comes from an economic capital model. While some companies already have an economic capital model in place, others are in the midst of building one. After integrating the interview results with the economic capital model, we work with the board and senior management to develop and refine the enterprise risk appetite statement, which we then extend to address risk tolerance and risk limits. With its new risk appetite now in place, the company has a solid foundation for risk-based decision-making. They can demonstrate how they are using ERM in practice to inform important business decisions and can better communicate the rationale for their decisions to all stakeholders.